The evening sun cast long shadows across the compound in Mbaise as Adaeze stirred the soup pot. It was a Thursday in 1994, just another ordinary day in the Okonkwo household. Her husband, Chinedu, had traveled to his ancestral village of Umudibia, 50 miles away, to settle a land dispute with his brothers. He had been gone for 3 days. Adaeze was 32 years old, a mother of 3, known throughout the community for her quiet demeanor and devotion to her family. She was unremarkable in every way, until that Thursday evening when everything changed. "Mama Namdi," her neighbor Ngozi called from the gate. "I brought you some tomatoes from the market." Adaeze turned to respond, but the words never came. Her eyes rolled back, the cooking spoon clattered to the ground, and she collapsed. Ngozi screamed, dropping her basket of tomatoes. "Somebody help. Adaeze has fallen." Within minutes, neighbors filled the compound. They laid Adaeze on a mat, fanning her face, sprinkling water on her lips. But her body remained rigid, her breathing shallow, her eyes moving rapidly beneath closed lids, as if watching something no one else could see. Then she began to speak. "Chinedu. Chinedu is angry," she mumbled, her voice distant and hollow. "His brother Okechukwu is shouting. They're fighting over the land near the Irako tree. Okechukwu is pushing him." No, stop." The neighbors exchanged worried glances. How could she know what was happening 50 miles away? For 15 minutes, Adaeze narrated the scene as if she were standing there. The heated argument, the names called, the elders who intervened, even the color of the wrapper worn by Chinedu's aunt who tried to make peace. Then, as suddenly as it began, she gasped and opened her eyes. 2 days later, Chinedu returned home, his face still tight with anger from the unresolved land dispute. "How was your journey?" Adaeze asked cautiously, serving him food. "Terrible," he grunted. "My brother is impossible. We nearly came to blows on Thursday evening." Adaeze's hands froze. Thursday evening. Exactly when she had collapsed. "And Okechukwu pushed you? And your Aunt Chioma wore a yellow wrapper and tried to make peace." The food dropped from Chinedu's hands. "Who told you this? Did someone from the village call you?" "No one called," Adaeze whispered, her voice trembling. I saw it, Chinedu. I don't know how, but I saw it all while I was unconscious here in our compound." Chinedu stared at his wife as if seeing her for the first time. "That's impossible." Over the next 3 months, it happened again, and again, and again. The trances came without warning, always when Chinedu or his relatives were in Umudibia. Adaeze would collapse wherever she stood, in the kitchen, at the market, in the church, and for minutes or sometimes hours, she would be gone, her spirit seemingly traveling those 50 miles to witness events she had no earthly way of knowing about. She saw Chinedu's uncle fall from a palm tree and break his leg. When the family called hours later to inform them, Adaeze had already told neighbors the exact details: which tree, which leg, even the color of the wrapper they used to bind the wound. She witnessed her sister-in-law's secret meeting with a lover behind her husband's compound. 3 days later, the affair was exposed by someone who had actually seen them, confirming every detail Adaeze had described while unconscious in Mbaise. She described a celebration feast with such accuracy, the type of soup, the number of guests, even conversations word for word, that people began to fear her. The compound that once buzzed with friendly neighbors fell silent. Women who used to stop by for gossip now hurried past Adaeze's home. At the market, traders would serve her quickly, avoiding eye contact. Even at church, people shifted away when she sat down. "They're afraid of me," Adaeze sobbed to Chinedu one night. "I didn't ask for this. I don't want to see these things." Chinedu held his wife, torn between fear and loyalty. He had witnessed the trances himself now, heard her describe events with impossible accuracy. Part of him wanted to believe it was God's gift, but another part wondered if his wife had been touched by something darker. "We need to consult someone," he said finally. "This is beyond our understanding." The Dibia's compound sat at the edge of the village, shrouded by ancient trees. Papa Aneo was old, some said over 90, with eyes that seemed to see through flesh and bone into the spirit realm itself. He listened to Adaeze's story without interruption, his weathered face impassive. When she finished, he was silent for a long time, consulting his divination shells, studying the patterns they made on the mat. "This woman," he said finally, "walks between 2 worlds. She has what we call Anyua, the eyes that see beyond distance and time. It is not witchcraft. It is not evil. It is a gift from the ancestors, though one that comes with great burden. Why me? Adaeze asked, her voice breaking. Why was I chosen? Papa Aneo studied her face. You did not tell me everything. There was something in your childhood, yes? A near-death experience. Adaeze's breath caught. She hadn't thought about it in years. The day she nearly drowned in the stream at age 7. How she had felt herself floating above her body, seeing her mother screaming on the bank below before somehow returning to her flesh. The veil between worlds became thin for you that day, Papa Aneo explained. Your spirit learned to travel while your body remained. Now, when strong emotion calls, fear for your husband, concern for family, your spirit answers by going to sea for itself. The old Dibia shook his head. To stop it is to stop her heart from beating. It is part of who she is now, but she can learn to control it, to understand when it comes and why, to use it not for fear, but for protection. Papa Aneo became Adaeze's teacher. He taught her to recognize the signs before a trance, the tingling in her fingers, the way sounds became distant, the cold feeling starting in her spine. He showed her how to sit or lie down safely before the trance took her, so she wouldn't injure herself falling. The ancestors chose you as a watchman, he explained. You see danger before it strikes. You witness truth when lies are told. This is not curse. This is protection for your family. Slowly, Adaeze began to understand. The trances weren't random attacks. They came when her loved ones needed watching, when danger lurked, when truth needed revealing. One evening, 6 months after the first trance, Adaeze felt the familiar tingling begin. Chinedu was in Umudibia again, this time for his cousin's wedding. She quickly sat in her chair and called her eldest son. Namdi, Mama is going on a journey. Watch my body. I'll return. The trance took her, and she saw the wedding celebration, joyful and loud. But in the corner, she saw Chinedu's cousin Emeka mixing something into a drink, poison meant for a business rival who had wronged him. She saw the intended victim reach for the glass. Adaeze's spirit screamed, though no sound came from her physical mouth. But somehow, impossibly, her husband turned at that exact moment in Umudibia, 50 miles away, as if he had heard her. He saw Emeka's guilty face, saw the drink being offered, and knocked it from the man's hand. What has gotten into you? Emeka demanded. I don't know, Chinedu said slowly, staring at the spilled drink. But something told me to stop this. When the drink was later tested by a suspicious elder, the poison was discovered. Emeka confessed. A life was saved. When Chinedu returned and heard Adaeze's account, everything changed. She had described the exact moment he knocked away the glass, the exact words spoken. She had saved a man's life from 50 miles away. This is not a curse, Chinedu said firmly, taking his wife's hands. This is a gift from God through our ancestors. You are blessed, not cursed. Word spread through Mbaise, the woman who lived in 2 worlds. The woman whose spirit could travel while her body remained. Some still feared her, but others began to see her differently. Not as a witch, but as a guardian, a watchman, a bridge between the physical and spiritual realms. By 1996, Adaeze's gift had become both blessing and burden. Yes, she had prevented accidents, exposed lies, and warned families of danger. But she had also seen things she wished she could unsee. She witnessed her brother-in-law's secret second wife in Umudibia, a truth that, once revealed, tore the family apart. She saw her husband's mother fall ill 2 days before anyone called to tell them. She described the sickness in such detail that Chinedu rushed to his mother's side, arriving just in time to say goodbye before she passed. She watched helplessly from her trance as a child in Umudibia fell into a well. Though her physical mouth in Mbaise screamed warnings, she was 50 miles away. By the time anyone in Umudibia heard the child's cries, it was too late. The child drowned. That death haunted Adaeze for months. What good is seeing if I cannot save them? She wept to Papa Aneo. What good is this gift if all I do is watch tragedy unfold? You are not God, the old Dibia reminded her gently. You are not meant to prevent every death, stop every accident. You are meant to see, to witness, to warn when you can. Some things are destiny. Even the spirits cannot change what must be. But the weight of that knowledge crushed her spirit. The hardest trance came on a Sunday in 1997. Chinedu had taken their eldest son, Namdi, now 14, to Umudibia to learn traditional farming methods from his grandfather. They planned to stay a week. On the 3rd day, during afternoon prayers at church, Adaeze felt the cold creep up her spine. Not now, she prayed silently. Please, not in church. But the gift did not ask permission. She collapsed in the pew. In her vision, she saw Namdi climbing a tall palm tree, showing off for his cousins. She saw the rope fray. She saw him slip. She saw him fall. But before he hit the ground, she saw Chinedu catch him, both of them tumbling into the soft earth, bruised but alive. When Adaeze gasped awake, the entire congregation was gathered around her. The pastor held her hand, praying fervently. "My son," she whispered. "My son fell from a palm tree." "It's just a vision," the pastor assured her. "He's safe with his father." But Adaeze knew better. She waited in agony by the phone at home. 3 hours later, Chinedu called. "Adaeze, don't panic, but Namdi had an accident. He fell from a palm tree. He's okay. I caught him. We're both just bruised." But he paused. "I don't know how, but something told me to stand right where I was. Right where he fell. If I'd been one step away, I couldn't have caught him. It was like someone pushed me into position." Adaeze closed her eyes, tears streaming down her face. "I know," she whispered. "I was there." In late 1997, Adaeze experienced her longest and most traumatic trance. It lasted 4 hours. 4 hours in which her body lay rigid in her home, while her spirit witnessed a tragic accident in Umudibia. A bus carrying a wedding party crashed on the road. Multiple casualties. Chaos. Blood. Death. Adaeze's spirit stood among the wreckage, invisible and helpless, watching the wounded cry for help, watching some draw their last breaths, watching families receive news that would shatter their worlds. She saw her husband's cousin, the bride herself, trapped in the twisted metal, crying for her mother. She saw the life fade from the young woman's eyes minutes before the rescuers cut her free. When Adaeze finally woke, she screamed. She screamed until her voice was raw, until Chinedu held her so tight she could barely breathe. "I watched her die," Adaeze sobbed. "Your cousin Ada. I watched her die and I couldn't do anything. I was right there, Chinedu, and I couldn't help." The phone call came 20 minutes later, confirming what Adaeze already knew. 12 people dead, including the bride. The family was devastated. At the funeral, people stared at Adaeze, both amazed and scared. She had described the accident before anyone even heard about it, even the words spoken by the dying. "How can you live with that knowledge?" one mourner asked. Adaeze had no answer. By 1998, Adaeze was exhausted. The trances came more frequently now, sometimes 2 or 3 times a week. Each one drained her, left her weak and shaking. She lost weight. Her hair began to gray prematurely. Her eyes held a haunted look, as if she'd seen too much for one soul to bear. "I wanted to stop," she told Papa Aneo. "Please, there must be a way to make it stop." The old Dibia was dying now, his ancient body finally failing. But his eyes still saw clearly. "You can close the door," he said weakly. "There are rituals, sacrifices, ways to seal the gift away. But know this, daughter, what the ancestors give, they give for a reason. Close this door, and you may close others you don't even know are open. Your life may become less, smaller. You will be safe, but you will be ordinary." "I want ordinary," Adaeze said desperately. "I want to be just a wife, just a mother. I want to look at my children without wondering if today is the day I'll see their deaths. I want to sleep without fear of what my dreams will show me. I want ordinary." Papa Aneo nodded slowly. "Then I will perform the ritual. But first, you must use your gift one last time. There is something you need to see, something meant only for you." That night, Papa Aneo prepared the ritual. He burned special herbs, made marks on Adaeze's forehead with sacred chalk, and chanted in a language older than Igbo itself. "Now," he said, "lie down. Let the gift take you one last time. But this time, instead of going to Umudibia, you will journey into your own future. You will see what you need to see." Adaeze hesitated, then lay down. The trance took her faster than ever before. She saw herself 10 years in the future, still in Mbaise, but changed. Older, yes, but also diminished. She saw herself cooking, cleaning, going through the motions of life with a vacant expression. She saw her children grown and distant, barely visiting. She saw Chinedu looking at her with something like disappointment, as if mourning the woman she used to be. But then the vision shifted. She saw herself still with the gift, but different. She saw herself teaching a young girl, her youngest daughter, Amara, who had inherited the same ability. She saw herself as a healer, a counselor, a wise woman whom people came to for guidance. She saw her gift used not just to witness, but to help, to heal, to guide others through their own spiritual journeys. She saw herself tired. Yes, the gift would always be exhausting, but fulfilled, purposeful, necessary. She saw her children proud of their mother, the woman who walked between worlds. She saw Chinidu old and gray, holding her hand, calling her his warrior wife, his spirit walker. She saw two paths, one safe and small, one difficult and meaningful. The vision faded. Adaeze opened her eyes. Papa Aneo watched her face. Well, he asked, do you still wish to close the door? Adaeze sat up slowly, her mind reeling from what she'd seen. I don't know, she whispered honestly. Both futures terrify me. One is empty. The other is exhausting. How do I choose? You already know, Papa Aneo said gently. Your heart has already decided. I can see it in your eyes. Adaeze was silent for a long moment. Then she asked, my daughter Amara, will she truly have this gift? She already does, Papa Aneo said. You've seen the signs, though you've been too afraid to acknowledge them. The way she knows things she shouldn't. The way she wakes crying from dreams that come true. She is like you, and she will need a teacher who understands. Not someone who fears the gift, but someone who has learned to walk with it. Adaeze thought of her youngest daughter, only 8 years old, already showing the sensitivity to the spirit realm. Who would guide Amara if Adaeze closed her own door? Who would teach her that the gift wasn't a curse, but a calling? If I keep the gift, Adaeze said slowly, can you teach me to bear it better? To see it not as burden, but as purpose? Papa Aneo smiled, his ancient face creasing with approval. I was hoping you would ask that. Yes, there are ways. Boundaries you can set. Times you can close yourself off. The gift does not have to control you. You can learn to control it. But it requires discipline, training, sacrifice. I'll do it, Adaeze said, surprising herself with the firmness in her voice. Not because I want to see more tragedy. Not because I enjoy walking between worlds. But because someone has to. Because my daughter will need me. Because maybe there's a reason I was chosen. Over the next year, before Papa Aneo's death in 1999, Adaeze learned things she had never imagined. She learned to create boundaries, specific times when she would allow the trances, and times when she would shield herself. She couldn't always control when they came, but she could create mental barriers that gave her some measure of protection. She learned to distinguish between visions that required immediate action and those that were simply information. Not every accident needed preventing. Some events were meant to unfold as destiny dictated. She learned to ground herself after each trance, to return fully to her body, to not lose herself between the two worlds. Most importantly, she learned to accept the gift as part of her identity, not separate from it. She was Adaeze, wife, mother, spirit walker. All of these things at once. When Papa Aneo died, peacefully in his sleep, Adaeze was there in spirit, though her body was in her own home. She held his hand as he crossed over, guided him toward the ancestors' light, whispered blessings for his journey. It was the first death she witnessed that didn't break her heart, because she understood now. She wasn't there to prevent death. She was there to witness it, to honor it, to ensure that even in their final moments, people weren't alone. By 2000, word of Adaeze's gift had spread throughout Mbaise and beyond. But now, instead of fear, people came with respect. Women whose husbands traveled far away would ask Adaeze to check on them during her trances. Families would seek her counsel when making important decisions. Some even brought their own children who showed signs of spiritual sensitivity, asking Adaeze to help them understand. And Amara, now 11, was beginning her own journey. Mama, I dreamed about Uncle Obiora last night, Amara said one morning at breakfast. He was in a car, and the road was bad, and he was worried about the brakes. Adaeze felt her heart clench, but she kept her voice calm. What else did you see? He was praying. And then he slowed down, and he stopped the car, and he was safe. He was okay. Good, Adaeze said, touching her daughter's hand. You witnessed, but you didn't panic. That's important. Sometimes we see danger approaching, but we also see it avoided. We must watch the full vision, not just the scary part. When Obiora called that afternoon to say he'd had brake problems on the road, but managed to stop safely, Amara's eyes went wide. I really saw it, she whispered. You really did, Adaeze confirmed. And now we begin your training, little one. Because you have a gift, just like your mama. And I'm going to teach you how to use it wisely. In 2002, researchers from the University of Nigeria, Nsukka, caught wind of Adaeze's gift. They approached her respectfully, wanting to study what they called spontaneous remote viewing. They set up a simple test. Chinedu would head to Umudibia at a specific time with sealed instructions that Adaeze wouldn't see. She would enter a trance and describe what she saw. The test was performed 3 times over 3 months. Each time, Adaeze's descriptions matched Chinedu's actions with 85 to 90% accuracy. She described the clothes he wore, the people he spoke to, the specific actions he took based on the sealed instructions. The researchers were stunned. "We cannot explain this with current scientific understanding," the lead researcher admitted. "There are theories, quantum entanglement, morphic fields, consciousness existing outside the brain, but none fully account for what we've documented. What we can say definitively is that this woman consistently accesses information that she should not, by any known means, be able to access." The study was published in a small academic journal. It didn't change the world. Skeptics dismissed it. But for Adaeze and her family, it was validation. She wasn't crazy. She wasn't possessed. She had a genuine, documented ability that science couldn't yet explain. By 2005, Adaeze was 43 years old. She had been walking between worlds for 11 years. The gift had cost her much. Her health was fragile. Her hair was gray. She looked older than her years. Some friendships had been lost, unable to survive the strangeness of her ability. But it had also given her much. Her marriage to Chinedu, tested by the impossible, had become unbreakable. He loved her not despite her gift, but including it. All of her, every strange and difficult piece. Her children knew they had a mother who was different, but they also knew they had a mother who would move heaven and earth, cross any distance, even leave her body behind, to protect them. And she had helped people, dozens, maybe hundreds over the years. Warnings given, dangers avoided, truths revealed, lives saved, not always, but sometimes, and sometimes was enough. On a quiet evening in 2006, Adaeze sat with Amara, now 17, teaching her the advanced techniques Papa Aneo had taught her years before. "Mama," Amara asked, "do you ever regret it? Keeping the gift instead of closing the door?" Adaeze considered the question honestly. "Every week," she admitted. "Sometimes every day. This gift has brought me pain you can't imagine, child. I've watched people die. I've seen betrayals and sorrows and horrors. I've lost parts of myself in the space between worlds. Then why keep it?" "Because," Adaeze said, taking her daughter's hand, "I've also seen miracles. I've seen love that crosses impossible distances. I've seen the strength of the human spirit facing death. I've seen the web that connects us all, the invisible threads between souls. And I've learned that some of us are called to walk in strange places, to stand in the spaces between, to be bridges between what is seen and what is unseen." She smiled at her daughter. "When you were 8, you had nightmares about your gift. You cried and begged me to make it stop. Do you remember what I told you?" Amara nodded. "You said that the spirits chose strong vessels, not weak ones. That we were given this gift not because we wanted it, but because we could bear it." "Exactly. We are the watchers, the witnesses, the ones who see. It's not easy. It's not comfortable. But it is necessary. Someone has to stand between the worlds. Why not us?" Years passed. Adaeze grew older, the trances less frequent as her energy waned. But Amara's gift grew stronger, and she had her mother to guide her through the challenges that Adaeze had faced alone. By 2010, people no longer whispered about Adaeze with fear. They spoke her name with respect. The woman who lived in 2 worlds, they called her. The spirit walker of Mbaise. She had never asked for fame or recognition. She had never sought to profit from her gift. She simply lived her life as fully as she could, 1 foot in this world, 1 foot in the next, walking the impossible line between them with as much grace as she could muster. On her 60th birthday, surrounded by her children, grandchildren, and husband, someone asked her what she had learned from 30 years of walking between worlds. Adaeze thought for a moment, then smiled. "I learned that we are more than these bodies," she said. "That consciousness is not bound by distance or time. That love is the strongest force in any world. And that sometimes the hardest gifts are the most important ones to accept." She looked at Amara, who now counseled others with similar gifts, who taught young women throughout Igbo land to understand and control their spiritual abilities. And I learned that the gift is never just for us, Adaeze continued. It's for the next generation and the next. We carry it not for ourselves, but for those who come after us. That's what makes it bearable, knowing that our struggles pave the way for others to walk more easily. As the celebration continued around her, Adaeze felt the familiar tingling in her fingers. Another trance was coming. After all these years, she recognized it as easily as her own heartbeat. She excused herself, lay down in her room, and let her spirit fly. This time, she went nowhere specific. She simply floated above Mbaise, looking down at her community, at the children playing, at the markets bustling, at the life continuing in all its messy, beautiful complexity. Indeed, for the first time in 30 years, she felt not burden, but peace. She understood now. The gift had never been about preventing every tragedy or solving every mystery. It had been about bearing witness to joy and sorrow, life and death, the extraordinary hidden within the ordinary. She was the witness, the watcher, the woman who lived in two worlds. And finally, she was at peace with both. Thank you for watching. Subscribe, like, and share this story on Adaeze 5 Chronicles for more true life and inspiring African stories.